DJ Moore had the DJ most of something. It turns out Ja'Marr Chase might always be open, and Justin Jefferson's quest to be the top Fantasy Games 1 player ever was hamstrung.
Yeah, feeling good on a Wednesday. Sparkling.
Hope you're doing good for a Wednesday. My name is Byron Cobalt from byron-cobalt.com, and this is the Fantasy Games 1 weekly recap. Fantasy Games 1 is a metric that converts fantasy points to your chance of actually winning in a fantasy game. I've been tracking this metric since the beginning of 2021. Since then, I've also been keeping track of who the all-time leaders were. All-time leaders as in if you had a dynasty team that you drafted in 2021. Who would you have wanted to pick at the time? Wanted to talk a little bit about Justin Jefferson's quest to the top of that list and how it fell apart this past week. So what I have here, this is the list of the all-time leaders in Fantasy Games 1. All-time, again, being since 2021. You see Kupp is at 4.27. That means that if you drafted him in Dynasty, all compared to an average player, he's won you 4.27 fantasy games since 2021. Might not seem like a lot, but that's actually a lot for one player. Justin Jefferson's number 2 at 4.01. He was within 0.01 of Kupp last week. It seemed inevitable that he was going to pass him. And well,
see you later.
Justin Jefferson got hurt. Kupp came back, and that pass never occurred. I thought it would be interesting to take a look at this list over time if we were to actually put it on a graph, and I'm going to pull that up now. I have to say, look at this. I love graphs like this. I wish this were something we could just blow out on like a magazine. I would see myself reading this in the waiting room with the barber, just staring at it for probably 25 minutes if it was a Saturday morning and there was a long wait. Actually, some of those waits were even longer than that. The most notable thing here is how far ahead of everyone else Kupp was up until he got hurt in 2022. Look at that. He hasn't even been playing. Again, this is the Fantasy Games 1 stat, so this does not give you negative points for not playing because this is agnostic of draft position. This just shows where you are. Justin Jefferson is now going to flatline for a couple weeks here, while Kupp probably goes up more. You see over time here, Jonathan Taylor was really close for a while. Derrick Henry actually started out with a bit of a lead. Different players have come close. Travis Kelce's still number 3. Might be tough to see some of the names over to the right there. If you want the actual data on this, I do have this data available on byron-cobalt.com. If you support the channel, you can get some of this data in exchange. Hope you enjoy looking at that nonetheless, or maybe you pause the video and you're not even here yet. Maybe that's it. And you're just going to pause there and what do I care? You're on the video. Maybe Justin Jefferson will pass Kupp. He probably has more to go in his career so far. Kupp's actually a little bit older than you'd expect. All right, that's enough of the nostalgia and retrospectives. Let's get into week 5.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh?
Who won the week? Ja'Marr Chase won the week. DJ Moore had the most points by what I consider to be the average scoring system within fantasy. This is about half PPR. But Ja'Marr Chase actually outscored him in week 5 in Fantasy Games 1 because DJ Moore was only started about 84% of the time. Can you imagine not starting DJ Moore last week? I feel bad for anyone that didn't start DJ Moore because I know those people are out there. It was one thing if you didn't start Devin Achane because it kind of came out of nowhere. Thankfully, at least 99% of people started Ja'Marr Chase. So if anyone benched Ja'Marr Chase, I really feel bad for them. Ja'Marr Chase, just so much talent. There's just talent, proverbial talent, all over the studio. Maybe it's my talent. Some people can make some questionable decisions when you're upset.
Nah, I'm open. I'm always open. Excuse my profanity. I'm sorry.
Travis Etienne in the number 3 spot here. I saw a lot of people giving up on Travis Etienne, and to be honest, it seemed a little bit surprising because of how much of a talent he is and how valuable a running back can be who gets the kind of volume that he sometimes gets for the Jaguars. This big game here, I think this is the start of Etienne being a premier fantasy pick. He's probably going to be, barring injuries or anything like that, he'll probably be a first-round pick next year. That's my guess. Tyreek Hill with another good week. We're going to talk about him in a minute. George Kittle with his semi-annual great week. 3 touchdowns on, I think it was only 3 catches, though. This might be a good time to trade George Kittle. My doppelganger, George Kittle. This is not the George Kittle podcast, believe it or not. I've been told I look like George Kittle. I might look more like Aaron Baines, though. This is kind of a callback to week 1. Breece Hall, only 74% started this week. That's not as painful as DJ Moore, but that's still pretty painful. Justin Fields doing the opposite of what he did last year. In 2022, Justin Fields was very good at scoring when you needed him and expected him to score. This as opposed to other players like Trevor Lawrence. I had to go silence my work phone while recording this. I actually do have a real job, believe it or not. Dallas Goedert. We're now in a Dallas Goddard giveth phase. Dallas defense, we're about to get to them. They're off here. There may be something to the Dallas's trading off the Dallas Goddard versus Dallas defense. One day, maybe Dallas Goddard will play for the Dallas defense. I don't know. A lot of things would have to happen for that to happen. Travis Kelce, to keep Swifties happy, was able to stay healthy this week. Also, just talking a little bit more about tight ends. Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta might be the best rookie fantasy tight end ever. I don't recall a rookie fantasy tight end doing something quite like he's doing here. Tight ends are notorious for being slow starters in general in the NFL. I might have to go back to someone like Antonio Gates to find a real comparison here. Devin Achane, also with another great week, and he goes and gets hurt. So that was fun while it was predictable. He was becoming really the breakout star of fantasy in 2023. Now it might be Sam Laporta's title to earn. All right, let's talk about who lost the week. Unfortunately, Anthony Richardson might have lost you your week. Anthony Richardson, I'm not sure if he's going to go down as a good pick or not this year. I have a friend who made a quote way back when. The quote was, "It just looks like you had a good draft because your team is doing well." And that might sound misguided, but I actually think it's really on point. I'm not sure what to make of Anthony Richardson here. This might be a situation of where it just looks like he was a bad pick because he's not helping your fantasy team. But I think Anthony Richardson, he might have, not for injuries, would have been one of those home run players, one of those league winner type players to draft because of what he's able to do. Going backwards through the list, so bumping up a little bit here. DeVonta Smith actually did this a lot in 2021, where he'd have these really, really down weeks. Hopefully we're not going to see more of that this year. I'd like to see the Eagles kind of throw the ball a bit more. I guess it all went to Dallas Goedert this time. Very meh week from James Cook, and very meh week from Ramondre Stevenson. Tony Pollard. We're really hoping Tony Pollard turns it around. I don't see any reason why Tony Pollard can't start having some huge games here. Miles Sanders is not doing well. 58% started still with 1.2 points. That's also, that's pretty rough. Aaron Jones somehow still hits 49% started. That's a strange number. I'm going to have to look at that. I'm just going to record myself just pulling up files in Excel. Jordan Love finally giving Packers fans a taste of what it means to have not amazing quarterback play for once. All right, let's look at this here. Aaron Jones. 2%.
Aaron Jones, percent started, 49%. Expert predicted,
49% of the
percent
time.
started,
Rank 11.
84%.
Which would have been, yeah. All right. Well, it appears that Aaron Jones was legitimately started in 49% of leagues, despite not really. Let's just do the research for the video during the video. Yeah, so Aaron Jones was inactive and was still starting 49% of leagues. That's kind of unfortunate. That's the highest number I think I've ever seen for a player that didn't end up playing. Yeah, that's just what happens when you got a player who's inactive for the Monday night game. It's tough to be prepared for that. Let's check the Junior Varsity All-Stars for Week 5. Zach Moss leading the way. Man, really? The week Jonathan Taylor gets back. There's a rule in fantasy football. It's called don't get cute. I think starting Zach Moss over Jonathan Taylor would have been pretty cute. I didn't do that. I started Jonathan Taylor. It cost me at least 1 week, and it probably cost a lot of others a week. He started only 20% of the time and busted out 30 points. This is kind of absurd. This is Zach Moss. Come on. Bunch of defenses and kickers here. Jared Goff only started 70% of the time. The Lions are good. Logan Thomas is probably going to see his percentage go up because tight end tends to be a wasteland. Desmond Ridder with a good aim because nothing makes sense. George Pickens starting to play well, right on the verge of when Deontay Johnson's coming back. Brock Purdy with a really good week. Brock Purdy might be entering streaming quarterback territory. Time to go check on the leaderboards.
I can't do nothing, man. I can't do nothing than what I'm already doing. If I'm open, I'm open. You know, at the end of the day, I can't do nothing but what can I do? If I'm open, I'm open. You know what I'm saying?
MVP rankings. Christian McCaffrey is still atop the Cooper Kupp Golden Barrel season MVP leaderboard, but his lead is much smaller than it was. Tyreek is coming right up on his heels there. An average week for Christian McCaffrey, that's where the negative 0.01, so he was right at the average. He scored a touchdown, but it was still what you'd about expect from your starting running back in fantasy. Tyreek Hill, however, had a great week, so he's closing the gap here. Stephon Diggs with a good week. He's got pretty comfortable lead now over Justin Jefferson for thirds. Jefferson now is going to see a couple weeks in a row of 0 points for fantasy games won, so he's going to stick around that spot. He's probably going to fall out of the top 10 by the time he returns, assuming he returns on schedule after about 4 weeks. Keenan Allen, coming off his bye, has a wide open road to have a great season. So let's just hope that his hamstrings can keep it together. Did anyone here draft Jake Elliott in the first round? Because he's playing like a first round pick. Josh Allen establishing himself as the top quarterback. Maybe not clearly the top quarterback because Justin Herbert's on here and he's out of bye. Looking at the top 10, look at this. Christian McCaffrey, number 1. The next running back is Kenneth Walker. who didn't even play in week 5 because of his bye week, followed by the Dolphins running back. This has not been the year for drafting running backs highly, and this was also not a year many people did. This has been a rough year for running back. Jamar Chase jumps up to the MVP leaderboard. See, he got 0.46 this past week. His total for the season is only 0.35 because he was negative before then. So great week for Jamar Chase. Start to erase the memories of all those negative games. Turns out
Now I'm open.
he is always open. Puka Nacua with another solid week. Looks like Puka will still be able to do something with Cooper Kupp back. Quietly, this is actually not too strange of a fantasy season for tight ends. We have Travis Kelce at number 11 and Mark Andrews number 20. It feels about right. Let's move over to the LVP leaderboard, the Brady Wedding Ring least valuable player leaders. A lot of running backs on the list here. A lot of running backs, and then like T. Higgins. Drake London, not quite enough of a good week to pull him out of the basement here. Still ahead of his Falcons teammate Kyle Pitts, who actually did something. Look at that. The bottom 8 has 6 running backs, and they're all running backs taken from about round 3 to round 6 or so. And remember, it's not just about being bad here. It's about being bad while in your starting lineup. And a lot of these players were in my starting lineup. Joe Burrow, not quite out of the basement yet. So he had an above average week. He wasn't started that much. So he'll probably see his starting number go back up a bit, which means that he could either actually start to climb out of the basement, or he's just going to burrow even deeper underground. Moving over to return on investment. So this is the top players once you adjust for draft slot. Dallas defense is still top 3, despite 2 really bad weeks in there. Once you adjust for draft slot here, this is where Puka becomes the 4th most valuable receiver by cost. You got Sam Laporta on the list as well. Let's flip on over to the disappearance of investment leaderboard.
And it's gone.
Daniel Carlson. Even after considering that you probably either drafted him in the last round or picked him up, he's worse than a replacement player to the same degree that Daniel Carlson is as bad compared to a replacement kicker as Cooper Kupp has been compared to like a 2nd round wide receiver. And Aaron Rodgers has been compared to like an 8th round quarterback. People keep starting him as their kicker.
I wish I didn't have anything. I wish I just had nothing, but I have less than that.
This is where it's painful to see Anthony Richardson on the list. Jalen Waddle hopefully has some huge games. Jalen Waddle's got to have his turn with a monster game for the Dolphins. I'm going to finish up here with a little bit of a story. So this video might come out a little bit late. We'll see. It might be late on Wednesday, and there's a reason for that. I've had quite a hectic week this past week for things that have nothing to do with the column. So you see, I have this sink piping problem in my kitchen where the pipes underneath the double sink are off by about 1 millimeter. So one side keeps popping off. And the reason for this is the previous sink, which was for some reason, thanks to the jerk of a previous owner of the house, was a cast iron sink. That was non-standard size. It was fitted to that. Now it's like just fits, but then it keeps popping off. And it pops off about every 6 months or so and lets us know with a bunch of water getting under the sink and getting onto the floor. Basically creates a little middle finger of a puddle in the middle of the kitchen. And it has a tendency to do this when other things are going wrong. It's like it watches us, and if anyone's getting stressed in the house, it just has boop, pops off, and it says like, hey, deal with this too. The flu has ripped through the family. I was probably patient 0 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you could tell during my video when I was coming down with a fever. I was starting to get hot.
Oh, mate, this isn't a fever. Sing, Grant.
This past week, my wife and 2 of the 3 kids have had the flu and fevers, and we also got a call in the middle of this where my mother-in-law apparently was temporarily for like 5 minutes paralyzed after falling down and still had to be convinced to go to the hospital.
Old people are driving. Run!
Oh, and our washing machine broke, so we had mountains of flu clothes everywhere. It was like turned the house into a wasteland temporarily, which is appropriate because I mentioned that 2 of the 3 kids had the flu. The one that didn't is our 1-year-old, so he couldn't get it. He was getting the John Connor treatment. We treat him like the golden child. He couldn't be touched here, which is a great problem to have, but it's a lot of work. I was strapping down the new washing machine to the back of the truck in the parking lot of Lowe's. That washing machine knew what it was in for when he got home. The way we were going to beat the hell out of it with the mountains of laundry it had to take care of, jumping off out of the back on the side of the highway would have been a more gentle way to go. So I was strapping it down. I got a picture text from my wife of that big middle finger puddle in the middle of the kitchen floor. Why am I telling this story? Well, as I was wiping up that leftover scented puddle and reattaching the pipe, I had a moment of clarity. I was like, you know what? No matter what happens, no matter what falls apart in the house or what disease comes through the family, they can solace in at least one thing. I didn't draft Najee Harris on any of my 2023 fantasy teams. Please like and subscribe. Check out byron-cobalt.com for the blog if you want to support the channel. That's the way to do it. If your fantasy team's leaking into the kitchen floor, just know that we're all going down in this fantasy football ship together. Hope you enjoyed the video. Good luck in week 6.
That's it.